the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Bhishma Parva. Section 111, Bhishma Parva continued. Sanjaya said, Arjuna then, O king, beholding the prowess of Bhishma in battle, addressed Sikhundin saying, Proceed towards the grandsire. Thou shouldst not entertain the slightest fear of Bhishma today. Even I will throw him down from his excellent car by means of my sharp shafts. Thus addressed by Partha, Sikhundin, O bull of Bharata's race, having heard those words rushed at the son of Ganga. And so Drishtadyumna also, O king, and the mighty car warrior Abhimanyu, having heard those words of Partha, joyfully rushed at Bhishma. And old Virata and Drupada, and Kuntiboja also, clad in mail, rushed at Bhishma in the very sight of thy son. And Nakula, Sahadeva, and the valiant king Yudhishthira also, and all the rest of the warriors, O monarch, rushed against Bhishma. As regards thy warriors, O king, that rushed according to the measure of their might and courage against those mighty warriors of the Pandava army united together, listen to me as I speak of them unto thee. Like a young tiger attacking a bull, Chitrasena, O king, rushed against Chekitna, who in that battle was proceeding for getting at Bhishma. Kritavarman, O king, resisted Drishtadyumna, who had reached the presence of Bhishma and who was exerting himself with great activity and vigor in that battle. Somadatta's son, O monarch, with great activity resisted Bhimasena, excited with fury and desirous of slaying Bhishma. Similarly Vikarna, desirous of protecting Bhishma's life, resisted the brave Nakula, who was scattering innumerable arrows around. And so, O king, Kripa the son of Saradvat, excited with rage, resisted Sahadeva proceeding towards Bhishma's car. And the mighty Durmukha rushed at that Rakshasa of cruel deeds, Vis, the mighty son of Bhimasena, desirous of Bhishma's slaughter. Thy son Duryodhana himself resisted Satyaki proceeding to battle. Sudakshina, the ruler of the Kambojas, O king, resisted Abhimanyu, O monarch, who was proceeding towards Bhishma's car. And Aswathaman, O king, excited with rage, resisted old Virata and Drupada, those two chastisers of foes united together. And Bharadwaja's son, exerting himself with vigor in battle, resisted the eldest Pandava, that is to say King Yudhishthira the just, who was desirous of Bhishma's death. And that great bowman Vis, Dusasana, in that battle resisted Arjuna, who was rushing with great speed, with Sikhundin before him, desirous of coming upon Bhishma, O monarch, and illuminating the 10 quarters with his bright weapons. And other warriors of thy army resisted in that great battle other mighty warriors of the Pandavas proceeding against Bhishma. Drishtadyumna, that mighty warrior, excited with rage, rushed against Bhishma alone, and addressing the troops repeatedly said in a loud voice, There, Arjuna, that delighter of Kuru's race, is proceeding against Bhishma in battle. Rush ye against Ganga's son. Be not afraid. Bhishma will not be able to attack you in battle. Vasava himself cannot venture to fight with Arjuna in battle. What therefore need be said of Bhishma, who, though possessed of bravery in battle, is feeble and old? Hearing these words of their commander, the mighty warriors of the Pandava army, filled with joy, rushed towards the car of Ganga's son. Many foremost of men, however, of thy army cheerfully received and resisted those heroes coming towards Bhishma like impetuous mass of living energy. That mighty warrior, Dusasana, abandoning all fears, rushed against Dhananjaya, desirous of protecting the life of Bhishma. And so the heroic Pandavas also, O king, rushed in battle against thy sons, those mighty warriors stationed about Bhishma's car. And then, O king, we beheld a highly wonderful incident, viz, that Partha, having proceeded as far as Dusasana's car, could not advance further. As the continent resists the surging sea, Even so did thy son Dusasana resist the angry son of Pandu. Both of them were foremost of warriors. Both of them, O Bharata, were invincible. Both of them, in beauty and splendor, O Bharata, resembled the sun or the moon. Both of them were excited with wrath. And each of them desired to slay the other. And they encountered each other in dreadful battle like Maya and Sakra in days of old. And Dusasana, O king, in that battle pierced the son of Pandu with 3 shafts and Vasudeva with 20. Then Arjuna, excited with rage upon beholding him of Vrishni's race thus afflicted, pierced Dusasana with 100 shafts. These, penetrating through the latter's armor, drank his blood in that battle. Then Dusasana, excited with wrath, pierced Partha with 5 shafts. And once more, O chief of the Bharatas, he pierced Arjuna in the forehead with 3 sharp shafts. And with those shafts sticking to his forehead, the son of Pandu looked beautiful in that battle like Meru, O king, with its tall crests. That great bowman was Partha, then thus deeply pierced by thy son wielding the bow, looked resplendent in that battle like a flowering Kinshuka. The son of Pandu then, excited with rage, afflicted Dusasana like Rahu inflamed with rage on the 15th day of the lighted fortnight, afflicting the moon at full. Thus afflicted by that mighty warrior, thy son, O king, pierced Partha in that battle with many shafts whetted on stone and winged with the feathers of the Kanka bird. Then Partha, cutting off Dusasana's bow and splitting his car with 3 shafts, sped at him many fierce arrows resembling the darts of death. Thy son, however, cut off all those shafts of Partha, exerting himself with vigor before they could reach him. All this seemed highly wonderful. Then thy son pierced Partha with many shafts of great sharpness. Then Partha, excited with rage in that battle, placed on his bowstring a number of shafts whetted on stone and furnished with wings of gold, and aiming them sped them all at his foe. These, O king, penetrated the body of that high-souled warrior, like swans, O monarch, diving into a lake. Thus afflicted by the high-souled son of Pandu, thy son, avoiding Partha, quickly proceeded to the car of Bhishma. Indeed, Bhishma then became an island unto him who was thus sinking into fathomless waters. Regaining consciousness then, thy son, O monarch, endued with heroism and prowess, once more began to resist Partha with sharp arrows like Purandara resisting the Asura Vritra. Of huge form, thy son began to pierce Arjuna, but the latter was scarcely pained at all this. Thus ends the 111th section in the Bhishma Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 112, Bhishma Parva continued. Sanjaya said, the mighty bowman Alambusha, the son of Rishyasringa, in that battle resisted Satyaki clad in mail and proceeding towards Bhishma. He of Madhu's race, however, O king, excited with wrath, pierced the Rakshasa with 9 arrows, smiling the while, O Bharata. And so the Rakshasa also, O king, excited with wrath, afflicted him of Madhu's race with that bull of Sin is slain with 9 arrows. Then Sin's grandson, that slayer of hostile heroes of Madhu's race, excited with rage, sped in that battle a profusion of arrows at the Rakshasa. Then that mighty armed Rakshasa pierced Satyaki of prowess, incapable of being baffled, with many sharp arrows, and uttered a loud shout. Then he of Madhu's race, endued with great energy, though deeply pierced by the Rakshasa in that battle, still, relying upon his prowess, laughed at his wounds and uttered loud roars. Then Bhagadatta, excited with rage, afflicted him of Madhu's race in that battle with many sharp arrows like a guide piercing a huge elephant with the hook. Then that foremost of warriors was the grandson of Sini, abandoning the Rakshasa in battle, sped many straight shafts at the ruler of the Pragyotishas. The ruler of the Pragyotishas then, with a broad-headed arrow of great sharpness, displaying great lightness of hand, cut off the large bow of Satyaki. Then that slayer of hostile heroes, excited with rage and taking up another bow of greater impetus, pierced Bhagadatta in that battle with many sharp arrows. That mighty bowman Vis, Bhagadatta, then deeply pierced began to lick the corners of his mouth. And he then hurled at his foe in that dreadful battle, a tough dart made wholly of iron decked with golden stones of lapis lazuli, and fierce as the rod of Yama himself. Sped with the might of Bhagadatta's arm and coursing towards him impetuously, Satyaki, O king, cut that dart in twain by means of his shafts. Thereupon that dart fell down suddenly like a great meteor shorn of its splendor. Beholding the dart baffled, thy son Duryodhana, O monarch, surrounded him of Madhu's race with a large number of cars. And seeing that mighty car warrior among the Vrishnis thus surrounded, Duryodhana angrily addressing all his brothers said, Take such steps, ye Kauravas, that Satyaki may not in this battle escape you and this large division of cars with life. If he be slain, the vast host of the Pandavas may be regarded as slain also. Accepting Duryodhana's words with the answer, So be it, those mighty car warriors fought with Sini's grandson in the view of Bhishma. The mighty ruler of the Kambojas in that battle resisted Abhimanyu, who was proceeding against Bhishma. The son of Arjuna, having pierced the king with many straight shafts, once more pierced that monarch, O monarch, with 64 shafts. Sudakshina, however, desirous of Bhishma's life, pierced Abhimanyu in that battle with 5 arrows and his charioteer with 9. And the battle that took place there in consequence of the meeting of those two warriors was fierce in the extreme. That grinder of foes Sikhundin then rushed at the son of Ganga. Old Virata and Drupada, those mighty car warriors, both excited with rage, rushed to battle with Bhishma, resisting the large host of the Kauravas as they went. That best of car warriors, Vis, Aswathaman, excited with rage, encountered both those warriors. Then commenced a battle, O Bharata, between him and them. Virata then, O chastiser of foes, struck with broad-headed shafts that mighty bowman and ornament of battle Vis, Drona's son, as the latter advanced against them. And Drupada also pierced him with 3 sharp shafts. Then the preceptor's son Aswathaman, coming upon those mighty warriors, thus striking him Vis, the brave Virata and Drupada, both proceeding towards Bhishma, pierced them both with many shafts. Wonderful was the conduct that we then beheld of those two old warriors, inasmuch as they checked all those fierce shafts shot by Drona's son. Like an infuriate elephant in the forest rushing against an infuriate compeer, Kripa the son of Saradvat proceeded against Sahadeva, who was advancing upon Bhishma. And Kripa, brave in battle, quickly struck that mighty car warrior Vis, the son of Madri, with 70 shafts decked with gold. The son of Madri, however, cut Kripa's bow in twain by means of his shafts. And cutting off his bow, Sahadeva then pierced Kripa with 9 arrows. Taking up then in that battle another bow capable of bearing a great strain, Kripa, excited with rage and desirous of Bhishma's life, cheerfully struck Madri's son in that battle with 10 shafts. And so the son of Pandu, in return desirous of Bhishma's death, excited with rage, struck the wrathful Kripa in the chest with many shafts. And then occurred there a terrible and fierce battle. That scorcher of foes Vis, Vikarna, desirous of saving the grandsire Bhishma, excited with rage in that battle, pierced Nakula with 60 arrows. Nakula also, deeply pierced by thy intelligent son, pierced Vikarna in return with 70 shafts. There those two tigers among men, those two chastisers of foes, those two heroes struck each other for the sake of Bhishma like two bovine bulls in a fold. Thy son Durmukha, endued with great prowess, proceeded for the sake of Bhishma against Ghatotkacha, advancing to battle and slaughtering thy army as he came. Hidimva's son, however, O king, excited with rage, struck Durmukha, that chastiser of foes, in the chest a straight shaft. The heroic Durmukha then, shouting cheerfully, pierced Bhimasena, his son, on the field of battle with 60 shafts of keen points. That mighty car warrior Vis, the son of Hridika, resisted Drishtadhyumna, that foremost of warriors who was advancing to battle from desire of Bhishma's slaughter. The son of Prishata, however, having pierced Kritavarman with 5 shafts made wholly of iron, once more struck him quickly in the center of the chest with 50 shafts. And similarly, O king, Prishata's son struck Kritavarman with 9 sharp and blazing shafts winged with the feathers of the Kanka bird. Encountering each other with great vigor, the battle that took place between them for Bhishma's sake was as fierce as that between Vritra and Vasava. Against Bhimasena, who was advancing upon the mighty Bhishma, proceeded Burisravas with great speed, saying, "Wait, wait." And the son of Somadatta struck Bhima in the center of the chest with an arrow of exceeding sharpness and golden wings in that battle. And the valiant Bhimasena, with that arrow on his chest, looked beautiful, O best of kings, like the Krauncha mountain in days of old with the dart of Skanda. And those 2 bulls among men, enraged in battle, shot at each other shafts brightly polished by their forgers and endued with effulgence of the sun. Bhima, longing for Bhishma's death, fought with the mighty son of Somadatta, and the latter, desirous of Bhishma's victory, fought with the former, each carefully seeking to counteract the other's feats. Bharadwaja's son resisted Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, who, accompanied by a large force, was coming towards Bhishma. Hearing the rattle of Drona's car, O king, that resembled the roar of the clouds, the Prabhadraka's sire began to tremble. That large force of Pandu's son, resisted by Drona in battle, could not, exerting vigorously, advance even 1 step. Thy son Chitrasena, O king, resisted Chekitana of wrathful visage, who was exerting vigorously for coming upon Bhishma. Possessed of great prowess and great dexterity of hand, that mighty warrior for the sake of Bhishma battled with Chekitana, O Bharata, according to the utmost of his power. And Chekitana also fought with Chitrasena to the utmost of his power. And the battle that took place there, in consequence of the meeting of those 2 warriors, was exceedingly fierce. As regards Arjuna, although he was resisted by all means, O Bharata, he still compelled thy son to turn back and then crushed thy tops. Dusasana, however, to the utmost stretch of his power, began to resist Partha, wishing, O Bharata, to protect Bhishma. The army of thy son, O Bharata, undergoing such slaughter, began to be agitated here and there by many foremost warriors of the Pandava. Thus ends the 112th section in the Bhishmavada Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 113, Bhishmavada Parva continued. Sanjaya said, the heroic Drona, that great bowman endued with the prowess of an infuriate elephant, that foremost of men possessed of great might, taking up his large bow, which was capable of checking even an infuriate elephant, and shaking it in his hands, was engaged in afflicting the Pandava ranks, having penetrated into their midst. That valiant warrior, acquainted with every omen, beholding the omens on all sides, addressed his son, who also was scorching the hostile ranks, and said these words, "This is that day, O son, on which the mighty Partha, desirous of slaying Bhishma in battle, will exert himself to the best of his might. My arrows are coming out of the quiver of their own accord. My bow seems to yawn. My weapon seems unwilling to obey my behests, and my heart also is cheerless. Animals and birds are uttering fearful and incessant cries. Vultures seem to disappear beneath the feet of the Bharata troops. The sun himself seems to have lost hue. The quarters are all ablaze. The earth seems to shriek, inspiring fear and trembling everywhere. Kankas and vultures and cranes are frequently crying. Jackals are uttering inauspicious and fierce yells, foreboding great danger. Large meteors seem to fall from the center of the solar disk. The constellation called Pariah, with a trunkless form, appeareth around the sun. The solar and the lunar disks have become awful, foreboding great danger to Kshatriyas about the mangling of their bodies. The idols of the Kuru king in his temples tremble and laugh and dance and weep. The illustrious moon riseth with his horns downward. The bodies of the kings belonging to the Kuru army all seem to be pale, and though clad in mail, are shorn of splendor. The loud blare of Panchajanya and the twang of Gandiva are heard on all sides of both the armies. Without doubt Arjuna, relying upon his great weapons and avoiding other warriors, will advance upon the grandsire. The pores of my body are contracting and my heart also is depressed, thinking, O mighty armed one, of the encounter between Bhishma and Arjuna. Keeping on his fore the Panchala, prince of sinful soul and conversant with deceit, Partha is proceeding towards Bhishma for battle. Bhishma said before that he would not slay Sikhandin. By the Creator had that one been made female, though through chance he subsequently became a male person. That mighty son of Yajnasena is also an inauspicious omen by himself. The son of the ocean-going Ganga will not strike that person of inauspicious self. Thinking of this wish, that Arjuna, excited with wrath, is about to fall upon the aged Kuru grandsire, my heart is exceedingly depressed. The wrath of Yudhishthira, an encounter between Bhishma and Arjuna in battle, and an endeavor like this of the shooting of weapons by myself, these three are certainly fraught with great harm to creatures. Arjuna is endued with great energy, he is powerful, brave, accomplished in weapons and possessed of valor that is very active. Capable of shooting his arrows to a great distance and shooting them with force, he is besides acquainted with omens. Endued with great might and intelligence and above fatigue, that foremost of warriors is incapable of defeat by the very gods with Vasava at their head. The son of Pandu possesses terrible weapons and is ever victorious in battle. Avoiding his path, go thou to battle for Bhishma's victory, O thou of rigid voice. Today in this dreadful battle thou wilt behold a great carnage. The beautiful and costly coats of mail, decked with gold, of brave warriors will be pierced with straight shafts. And the tops of standards and bearded javelins, and bows and bright lances of sharp points and darts bright with gold, and the standards on the backs of elephants will all be cut off by Kiritin in wrath. O son, this is not the time when dependents should take care of their lives. Go to battle, keeping heaven before thee, and for the sake of fame and victory. There, the ape-bannered Arjuna crossed on his car the river of battle that is awful and incapable of being easily crossed, and hath cars, elephants, and steeds for its eddies. Regard for Brahmanas, self-restraint, liberality, asceticism and noble conduct are seen in Yudhishthira alone, who hath for his brothers Dhananjaya, and the mighty Bhimasena and the twin sons of Madri by Pandu, and who hath Vasudeva of the Vrishni race for his protector. The wrath, born of grief of that Yudhishthira, whose body hath been purified by the flames of penance, directed to the wicked-souled son of Dhritarashtra, is consuming this Bharata host. There cometh Partha, having Vasudeva for his protector, checking as he cometh this entire Dhritarashtra army. Behold, Kiritin is agitating this host like a large whale agitating the vast sea of crested waves. Hark! Cries of distress and woe are heard in the van of the army. Go, encounter the heir of the Panchala king. As for myself, I will proceed against Yudhishthira. The heart of King Yudhishthira's very strong array is difficult of access. Inaccessible as the interior of the sea, it is guarded on all sides by Atirathas, Satyaki, and Abhimanyu and Drishtadhyumna, and Vrikodara and the twins. Even these are protecting that ruler of Menvis, King Yudhishthira. Dark as the younger brother of Indra and risen like a tall Sala, behold Abhimanyu advancing at the head of the Pandava host like a second Falguna. Take up thy mighty weapons and with thy large bow in hand proceed against the royal son of Prishatavis, Sikhandin, and against Vrikodara. Who is there that doth not wish his dear son to live for many years? Keeping the duties of a Kshatriya however before me, I am engaging thee to this task. So Bhishma also in this battle is consuming the mighty host of the Pandavas. O son, he is in battle equal to Yama or Varuna himself. Thus ends the 113th section in the Bhishma Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 114, Bhishma Parva continued. Sanjaya said, hearing these words of the high-souled Drona, Bhagadatta and Kripa and Salya and Kritavarman, and Vinda and Anuvinda of Avanti, and Jayadratha the ruler of the Sindhus, and Chitrasena and Vikarna and Dharmarjna and others, these 10 warriors of thy army supported by a large host consisting of many nationalities, fought with Bhimasena, desirous of winning high renown in the battle for Bhishma's sake. And Salya struck Bhima with 9 arrows, and Kritavarman struck him with 3, and Kripa with 9. And Chitrasena and Vikarna and Bhagadatta O sire, each struck him with 10 arrows. And the ruler of the Sindhus struck him with 3, and Vinda and Anuvida of Avanti each struck him with 5 arrows. And Duryodhana struck that son of Pandu with 20 sharp arrows. Bhimasena O king, pierced in return every one of those kings, those foremost of men in the world, those mighty warriors of the Dhartarashtra army one after another. The brave Pandava, that slayer of hostile heroes, pierced Salya with 7 arrows and Kritavarman with 8. And he cut off Kripa's bow with arrow fixed thereon O Bharata, in the middle dividing it in twain. And after thus cutting off his bow, he pierced Kripa once more with 7 arrows. And he struck Vinda and Anuvinda with 3 arrows each. And he pierced Dharmarjna with 20 arrows, and Chitrasena with 5 and Vikarna with 10, and Jayadratha with 5. And once more striking the ruler of the Sindhus with 3 arrows, he uttered a loud shout filled with joy. Then Gautama, that foremost of warriors, taking up another bow angrily pierced Bhima with 10 sharp shafts. Pierced with those 10 shafts like a huge elephant with the hook, the valiant Bhimasena O king, filled with wrath struck Gautama in that battle with many shafts. Possessed of the splendor of Yama himself, as he appears at the end of the Yuga, Bhimasena then with 3 arrows dispatched unto death's domain the steeds of the ruler of the Sindhus, as also his charioteer. Thereupon that mighty warrior Vis, Jayadratha, quickly jumping down from that car whose steeds had been slain, shot in that battle many sharp-pointed shafts at Bhimasena. Then O sire, with a couple of broad-headed arrows he cut off O chief of the Bharatas, the bow of the high-souled king of the Sindhus in the middle. His bow cut off, himself deprived of car, his steeds and charioteer slain, Jayadratha then O king, quickly mounted on the car of Chitrasena. Indeed, the son of Pandu achieved in that battle a most wonderful feat, for piercing all those mighty warriors and holding them in check, he deprived O sire, the ruler of the Sindhus of his car in the very sight of all the army. Salya could not brook to see the prowess that Bhimasena displayed, for saying unto him, Wait, wait. He aimed some sharp arrows well polished by the forger's hands and pierced Bhima therewith in that battle. And Kripa and Kritavarman and the valiant Bhagadatta, and Vinda and Anuvinda of Avanti, and Chitrasena and Dharmarjna and Vikarna, and the valiant ruler of the Sindhus also in that battle, these chastisers of foes all quickly pierced Bhima for the sake of Salya. Bhima then pierced each of them in return with 5 arrows. And he pierced Salya then with 70 arrows and once more with 10. And Salya then pierced him with 9 arrows and once more with 5. And he pierced Bhimasena's charioteer also, deep in his vitals with a broad-headed arrow. The valiant Bhimasena then, beholding his charioteer Vaizoka deeply pierced, sped 3 arrows at the arms and chest of the ruler of Madras. And as regards the other great bowmen, he pierced each of them in that battle with 3 straight arrows, and then uttered a loud roar like that of the lion. Each of those great bowmen then, exerting himself with vigor deeply pierced that son of Pandu skilled in battle, with 3 arrows in his vitals. That mighty bowman Vis, Bhimasena, though pierced deeply, trembled not but stood still like a mountain drenched with torrents of rain by showering clouds. Then that mighty warrior of the Pandavas filled with wrath, that celebrated hero, deeply pierced the ruler of the Madras with 3 arrows. And he pierced the ruler of the Pragyotishas, O king, in that battle with 100 arrows. Of great renown, he then pierced Kripa with many arrows, and then, displaying great dexterity, he cut off with the keenest shaft the bow, with arrow fixed thereon of the high-souled Kritavarman. Then Kritavarman, that scorcher of foes, taking up another bow, struck Vrikodara between his eyebrows with a long arrow. Bhima, however, in that battle, having pierced Salya with 9 arrows made wholly of iron, and Bhagadatta with 3 and Kritavarman with 8, pierced each of the others with Gautama at their head with 2 arrows. Those warriors also in return pierced him, O king, with sharp-pointed shafts. Though thus afflicted by those mighty warriors with all kinds of weapons, yet, regarding them all as straw, he coursed on the field without any anxiety. Those foremost of warriors, on the other hand, with great coolness sped at Bhima sharp-pointed arrows by hundreds and thousands. The heroic and mighty Bhagadatta then, in that battle, hurled at him a dart of fierce impetuosity furnished with a golden staff. And the Sindhu king, of strong arms, hurled at him a lance and an axe. And Kripa, O king, hurled at him a satadni, and Salya an arrow. And the other great bowmen each sped at him 5 arrows with great force. The son of the wind god then cut off with a sharp shaft that lance in twain. And he cut off that axe also with 3 shafts, as if it were a sesame stalk. And with 5 shafts winged with the feathers of the kanka bird, he cut that satadni into fragments. That mighty warrior then, having cut off the arrow sped by the ruler of the Madras, forcibly cut off the dart sped by Bhagadatta in that battle. As regards the other fierce shafts, Bhimasena, proud of his feats in battle, cut them each into 3 fragments by means of his own straight shafts. And he struck each of those great bowmen also with 3 shafts. Then Dhananjaya, during the progress of that dreadful battle, beholding the mighty warrior Bhima striking the foe and battling against many with his arrows, came thither on his car. Then those bulls among men of thy army, beholding those 2 high-souled sons of Pandu together, gave up all hopes of victory. Then Arjuna, desirous of slaying Bhishma, placing Sikhundin before him, approached Bhima, who had been fighting with those great warriors, and fell upon those fierce combatants numbering 10, of thy army, O Bharata. Then Vibhatsu, desirous of doing what was agreeable to Bhima, pierced all those warriors, O king, who had been battling with Bhima. Then King Duryodhana urged Susaman for the destruction of both Arjuna and Bhimasena, saying, O Susaman, go thou quickly, supported by a large force. Slay those 2 sons of Panduvis, Dhananjaya and Vrikodara. Hearing these words of his, the Trigata king, who ruled the country called Prasthala, quickly rushed in battle upon those 2 bowmen, viz, Bhima and Dhananjaya, and surrounded them both by many thousands of cars. Then commenced a fierce battle between Arjuna and the foe. Thus ends the 114th section in the Bhishma Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 115, Bhishma Parva continued. Sanjaya said, Arjuna covered with his straight shafts the mighty warrior Salya, who was struggling vigorously in battle. And he pierced Susaman and Kripa with 3 arrows each. And in that battle the Atiratha Arjuna, afflicting thy host, struck the ruler of the Pragyotishas, and Jayadratha the king of the Sindhus, and Chitrasena and Vikarna, and Kritavarman and Dharmarjna, O monarch, and those 2 mighty warriors, viz, the princes of Avanti, each with 3 arrows winged with the feathers of the kanka and the peacock. Jayadratha, staying on the car of Chitrasena, pierced Partha in return, O Bharata, and then without loss of time, Bhima also with his shafts. And Salya, and that foremost of warriors, viz, Kripa, both pierced Jishnu, O monarch, with diverse arrows capable of penetrating into the very vitals. Thy sons headed by Chitrasena, O king, each quickly pierced Arjuna and Bhimasena in that battle, O sire, with 5 sharp shafts. Those 2 foremost of our warriors, however, viz., those sons of Kunti, those bulls of Bharata's race, began in that battle to afflict the mighty host of the Trigatas. Susaman in return pierced Partha with 9 swift arrows, and uttered a loud shout, frightening the vast host of the Pandavas. And other heroic warriors pierced Bhimasena and Dhananjaya with many straight-going arrows of keen points and golden wings. Amid these warriors, however, those 2 bulls of Bharata's race, viz., the 2 sons of Kunti, those great warriors, looked exceedingly beautiful. And they seemed to sport amid them like 2 furious lions amid a herd of kine, cutting off in various ways the bows and arrows of many brave warriors in that battle. Those 2 heroes felled the heads of combatants by hundreds upon hundreds. Innumerable cars were broken and steeds by hundreds were slain, and many elephants along with their riders were laid low on the field in that dreadful battle. And car warriors and horsemen and elephant riders in large numbers, O king, deprived of life, were seen moving in convulsions all over the field. And the earth was covered with slain elephants and foot soldiers in large bands, and steeds deprived of life, and cars broken in divers ways. And the prowess we beheld there of Partha was highly wonderful, inasmuch as holding in check all those heroes, that mighty warrior caused a great slaughter. Kripa and Kritavarman, and Jayadratha the ruler of the Sindhus, and Vinda and Anuvinda of Avanti, these did not forsake the battle. Then that great bowman Bhima, and that mighty warrior Arjuna began in that battle to tout the fierce host of the Kauravas. The kings in that army quickly sped at Dhananjaya's car, myriads upon myriads and millions upon millions of arrows furnished with peacock feathers. Partha, however, checking those arrows by means of his own arrowy showers, began to send those mighty warriors to Yama's abode. The great warrior Salya then, excited with wrath and as if sporting in that battle, struck Partha in the chest with some straight shafts of broad heads. Partha then, cutting off by means of 5 shafts Salya's bow and leathern fence, pierced the latter deeply in the very vitals with many arrows of keen points. Taking up another bow capable of bearing a great strain, the ruler of the Madras then furiously attacked Jishnu with 3 arrows, O king, and Vasudeva with 5. And he struck Bhimasena in the arms and the chest with 9 arrows. Then Drona, O king, and that mighty warrior Vis, the ruler of the Magadhas, commanded by Duryodhana, both came to that spot where those 2 mighty warriors Vis, Partha and Bhimasena, were slaughtering the mighty host of the Kuru king. Jayatsena, the king of the Magadhas, then, O bull of Bharata's race, pierced Bhima, that wielder of awful weapons, in battle with 8 sharp arrows. Bhima, however, pierced him in return with 10 arrows, and once more with 5. And with another broad-headed shaft he felled Jayatsena's charioteer from his niche in the car. The steeds of his car, no longer restrained, ran wildly in all directions, and thus carried away the ruler of the Magadhas from battle in the sight of all the troops. Meanwhile Drona, noticing an opening, pierced Bhimasena, O bull of Bharata's race, with 8 keen shafts furnished with heads shaped after the frog's mouth. Bhima, however, ever delighting in battle, pierced the preceptor, who was worthy of paternal reverence, with 5 broad-headed arrows, and then, O Bharata, with 60. Arjuna, again piercing Susaman with a large number of arrows made wholly of iron, destroyed his troops like the tempest destroying mighty masses of clouds. Then Bhishma, and the king Vis, Duryodhana, and Vrihadvala, the ruler of the Kausalas, excited with rage, advanced upon Bhimasena and Dhananjaya. At this, the heroic warriors of the Pandava army and Dhrishtadyumna, the son of Prishatha, rushed in battle against Bhishma, who was advancing like death himself with wide open mouth. Sikhundin also, sighting the grandsire of the Bharatas, was filled with joy and rushed at him, abandoning all fear of the mighty warrior. Then all the Patas, with Yudhishthira at their head, placing Sikhundin in the van, and uniting with the Srinjayas fought with Bhishma in battle. And similarly all the warriors of the army, placing Bhishma of regulated voice in their van, fought in battle with all the Patas headed by C.I.E. The battle then that commenced there between the Kauravas and the sons of Pandu for the sake of Bhishma's victory, or victory over Bhishma, was exceedingly terrible. Indeed, in that game of battle, played for the sake of victory or the reverse, Bhishma, O monarch, became the stake on which the victory of thy army depended. Then Drishtadyumna, O king, commanded all the troops saying, rush against the son of Ganga. Do not fear, ye best of warriors. Hearing those words of their generalissimo, the army of the Pandavas quickly advanced against Bhishma, ready to lay down their lives in that dreadful battle. Bhishma then, that foremost of warriors, received that large host rushing towards him, like the continent receiving the surging sea. Thus ends the 115th section in the Bhishmavada Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 116, Bhishmavada Parva continued. Dhritarashtra said, how, O Sanjaya, did Santanu's son Bhishma of mighty energy fight on the 10th day of battle with the Pandavas and the Srinjayas? How also did the Kurus resist the Pandavas in battle? Describe to me the great battle fought by Bhishma, that ornament of battle. Sanjaya said, I will presently describe to thee, O Bharata, how the Kauravas fought with the Pandavas and how that battle took place. Day after day many mighty warriors of thy army, excited with wrath, were dispatched to the other world by the diadem-decked Arjuna with his great weapons. The ever victorious Kuru warrior Bhishma also, agreeably to his vow, always caused a great carnage among the Partha army. O chastiser of foes, beholding Bhishma fighting at the head of the Kurus and Arjuna also fighting at the head of the Panchalas, we could not say truly on which side the victory would declare itself. On the 10th day of battle, when Bhishma and Arjuna encountered each other, awful was the carnage that took place. On that day, O scorcher of foes, Santanu's son Bhishma, conversant with high and mighty weapons, repeatedly slew thousands upon thousands of warriors. Many, O Bharata, whose names and families were not known, but who, endued with great bravery, were unretreating from battle, were on that day slain by Bhishma. Scorching the Pandava army for 10 days, Bhishma of virtuous soul gave up all desire of protecting his life. Wishing his own slaughter presently at the head of his troops, no more shall I slay large number of foremost of warriors, thought thy mighty armed sire Devavrata. And seeing Yudhishthira near him, O king, he addressed him saying, O Yudhishthira, O thou of great wisdom, O thou that art acquainted with every branch of learning, listen to these righteous and heaven-leading words, O sire, that I say. O Bharata, I no longer desire to protect, O sire, this body of mine. I have passed much time in slaying large numbers of men in battle. If thou wishest to do what is agreeable to me, strive to slay me, placing Partha with the Panchalas and the Srinjayas at thy van. Ascertaining this to be his intention, King Yudhishthira of true sight proceeded to battle with the Srinjayas for his support. Then Drishtadyumna, O king, and Pandu's son Yudhishthira, having heard those words of Bhishma, urged their array on. And Yudhishthira said, advance. Fight. Vanquish Bhishma in battle. Ye all will be protected by that conqueror of foes Vis, Jishnu of unbaffled aim. And this great bowman, this generalissimo of our forces Vis, the son of Prishata as also Bhima, will assuredly protect you. Ye Srinjayas, entertain no fear today of Bhishma in battle. Without doubt, we will vanquish Bhishma today, placing C.I.E in our van. Having on the 10th day of battle made such a vow, the Pandavas, resolved to conquer or go to heaven, advanced, blinded by rage, with C.I.E and Dhananjaya the son of Pandu to the fore. And they made the most vigorous efforts for the overthrow of Bhishma. Then divers kings of great might, urged by thy son and accompanied by Drona and his son and a large force, and the mighty Dusasana at the head of all his uterine brothers, proceeded towards Bhishma, staying in the midst of that battle. Then those brave warriors of thy army, placing Bhishma of high voice in their van, battled with the Pathas headed by Sikhundin. Supported by the Chedis and the Panchalas, the ape-bannered Arjuna, placing Sikhundin ahead, proceeded towards Bhishma, the son of Santanu. And the grandson of Sini battled with Drona's son and Drishtaketu with the descendant of Puru and Yudhamanyu with thy son Duryodhana at the head of his followers. And Virata at the head of his forces, encountered Jayadratha supported by his own troops. And Vardakshatra's arrow chastiser of foes, encountered thy son Chirasena armed with excellent bow and arrows. And Yudhishthira proceeded against the mighty bowman Salya at the head of his troops. And Bhimasena, well protected, proceeded against the elephant division of the Kaurava army. And Drishtadhyumna, the prince of Panchala, excited with fury and accompanied by his brothers, proceeded against Drona, that foremost of all wielders of weapons, invincible and irresistible. That chastiser of foes was Prince Vrihadvala, bearing on his standard the device of the lion, proceeded against Subhadra's son, whose standard bore the device of the Karnikara flower. Thy sons, accompanied by many kings, proceeded against Sikhundin and Dhananjaya the son of Pritha, from desire of slaughtering both of them. When the combatants of both armies rushed against each other with awful prowess, the earth shook under their tread. Beholding Santanu's son in battle, the divisions of the army and of the foe Bharata became mingled with one another. Tremendous was the din of Bharata that arose there of those warriors burning with rage and rushing against each other. And it was heard on all sides, O king. With the blare of conches and the leonine shouts of the soldiers, the uproar became awful. The splendor equal to that of either the sun or the moon, of bracelets and diadems of all the heroic kings, became dimmed. And the dust that rose looked like a cloud, the flash of bright weapons constituting its lightning. And the twang of bows, the whiz of arrows, the blare of conches, the loud beat of drums, and the rattle of cars of both the armies constituted the fierce roar of those clouds. And the welkin over the field of battle, in consequence of the bearded darts, the javelins, the swords and showers of arrows of both armies was darkened. And warriors and horsemen felled horsemen, in that dreadful battle. And elephants killed elephants, and foot soldiers slew foot soldiers. And the battle that took place there for Bhishma's sake, between the Kurus and the Pandavas, or tiger among men, was fierce in the extreme, like that between two hawks for a piece of flesh. Engaged in battle, that encounter between those combatants desirous of slaughtering and vanquishing one another, was extremely dreadful. Thus ends the 116th section in the Bhishmavada Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 117, Bhishmavada Parva continued. Sanjaya said, Abhimanyu, O king, displaying his prowess for the sake of Bhishma, fought with thy son who was supported by a large force. Then Duryodhana, excited with wrath, struck Abhimanyu in the chest with 9 straight arrows and once more with 3. Then, in that battle Arjuna's son, inflamed with wrath, hurled at Duryodhana's car a terrible dart resembling the rod of death himself. Thy son, however, that mighty warrior, O king, with a broad-headed arrow of great sharpness cut off in twain that dart of terrible force coursing towards him with great speed. Beholding that dart of his drop down on the earth, Arjuna's wrathful son pierced Duryodhana with 3 shafts in his arms and chest. And once more, O chief of the Bharatas, that mighty warrior of Bharata's race struck the Kuru king with 10 fierce shafts in the center of his chest, and the battle of Bharata, that took place between those two heroes was Subhadra's son and that bull of Kuru's race, the former fighting for compassing Bhishma's death and the latter for Arjuna's defeat, was fierce and interesting to behold and gratifying to the senses, and was applauded by all the kings. That bull among Brahmanas and chastiser of foes Vis, the son of Drona, excited with wrath in that battle forcibly struck Satyaki in the chest with a fierce arrow. The grandson of Sini also, that hero of immeasurable soul, struck the preceptor's son in every vital limb with 9 shafts winged with the feathers of the Kanka bird. Aswathaman then, in that battle struck Satyaki in return with 9 shafts and once more, quickly with 30 in his arms and chest. Then that great bowman of the Satvata race, possessed of great fame, deeply pierced by Drona's son, pierced the latter in return with arrows. The mighty warrior Paurava, covering Drishtaketu in that battle with his shafts, mangled that great bowman exceedingly. The mighty warrior Drishtaketu, endued with great strength, quickly pierced the former with 30 arrows. Then the mighty warrior Paurava cut off Drishtaketu's bow and, uttering a loud shout, pierced him with whetted shafts. Drishtaketu then, taking up another bow, pierced Paurava, O king, with 73 shafts of great sharpness. Those 2 great bowmen and mighty warriors, both of gigantic stature, pierced each other with showers of arrows. Each succeeded in cutting off the other's bow and each slew the other's steeds. And both of them, thus deprived of their cars, then encountered each other in a battle with swords. And each took up a beautiful shield made of bull's hide and decked with 100 moons and graced with 100 stars. And each of them also took up a polished sword of brilliant luster, and thus equipped, they rushed oaking at each other like 2 lions in the deep forest, both seeking the companionship of the same lioness in her season. They wheeled in beautiful circles, advanced and retreated and displayed other movements, seeking to strike each other. Then Paurava, excited with wrath, addressed Drishtaketu saying, "Wait, wait," and struck him on the frontal bone with that large scimitar of his. The king of the Chedis also in that battle struck Paurava, that bull among men, on his shoulder joint, with his large scimitar of sharp edge. Those 2 repressors of foes, thus encountering each other in dreadful battle and thus striking each other, O king, both fell down on the field. Then thy son Jayatsena, taking Paurava upon his car, removed him from the field of battle on that vehicle. And as regards Drishtaketu, the valiant and heroic Sahadeva, the son of Madri, possessed of great prowess, bore him away from the field. Chitrasena, having pierced Susaman with many arrows made wholly of iron, once more pierced him with 60 arrows and once more with 9. Susaman, however, excited with wrath in battle, pierced thy son, O king, with hundreds of arrows. Chitrasena then, O monarch, excited with rage, pierced his adversary with 30 straight shafts. Susaman, however, pierced Chitrasena again in return. In that battle for the destruction of Bhishma, Subhadra's son, enhancing his fame and honor, fought with Prince Vrihadvala, putting forth his prowess for aiding his sire Partha, and then proceeded towards Bhishma's front. The ruler of the Kosalas, having pierced the son of Arjuna with 5 shafts made of iron, once more pierced him with 20 straight shafts. Then the son of Subhadra pierced the ruler of Kosalas with 8 shafts made wholly of iron. He succeeded not, however, in making the ruler of the Kosalas to tremble, and therefore he once more pierced him with many arrows. And Falguni's son then cut off Vrihadvala's bow and struck him again with 30 arrows winged with feathers of the Kanka bird. Prince Vrihadvala then, taking up another bow, angrily pierced the son of Falguna in that battle with many arrows. Verily, O scorcher of foes, the battle for Bhishma's sake that took place between them, both excited with rage and both conversant with every mode of fight, was like the encounter of Vali and Vasava in days of old on the occasion of the battle between the gods and the Asuras. Bhimasena, fighting against the elephant division, looked highly resplendent like Sakra armed with the thunder after splitting large mountains. Indeed, elephants, huge as hills, slaughtered by Bhimasena in battle, fell down in numbers on the field, filling the earth with their shrieks. resembling massive heaps of antimony, and of mountain-like proportions, those elephants with frontal globes split open, lying prostrate on the earth seemed like mountains strewn over the earth's surface. The mighty bowman Yudhishthira, protected by a large force, afflicted the ruler of the Madras, encountering him in that dreadful battle. The ruler of the Madras, in return displaying his prowess for the sake of Bhishma, afflicted the son of Dharma, that mighty warrior in battle. The king of Sindhus, having pierced Virata with 9 straight arrows of keen points, once more struck him with 30. Virata, however, O king, that commander of a large division, struck Jayadratha in the center of his chest with 30 shafts of keen points. The ruler of the Matsyas and the ruler of the Sindhus, both armed with beautiful bows and beautiful scimitars, both decked with handsome coats of mail and weapons and standards, and both of beautiful forms, looked resplendent in that battle. Drona, encountering Dhrishtadyumna, the prince of the Panchalas, in dreadful battle, fought fiercely with his straight shafts. Then Drona, O king, having cut off the large bow of Prishata's son, pierced him deeply with 50 arrows. Then that slayer of hostile heroes, Vis, the son of Prishata, taking up another bow, sped at Drona, who was contending with him, many arrows. The mighty warrior Drona, however, cut off all those arrows, striking them with his own. And then Drona sped at Drupada's son 5 fierce shafts. Then that slayer of hostile heroes, Vis, the son of Prishata, excited with rage, hurled at Drona in that battle a mace resembling the rod of death himself. Drona, however, with 50 arrows checked that mace decked with gold as it coursed impetuously towards him. Thereupon that mace, cut into fragments, O king, by those shafts shot from Drona's bow, fell down on the earth. Then that scorcher of foes, Vis, the son of Prishata, beholding his mace baffled, hurled at Drona an excellent dart made wholly of iron. Drona, however, O Bharata, cut that dart with 9 shafts in that battle, and then afflicted that great bowman Vis, the son of Prishata. Thus took place, O king, that fierce and awful battle between Drona and the son of Prishata for the sake of Bhishma. Arjuna, getting at the son of Ganga, afflicted him with many arrows of keen points and rushed at him like an infuriate elephant in the forest upon another. King Bhagadatta, however, of great prowess, then rushed at Arjuna and checked his course in battle with showers of arrows. Arjuna then, in that dreadful battle, pierced Bhagadatta's elephant, coming towards him with many polished arrows of iron that were all bright as silver and furnished with keen points. The son of Kunti, meanwhile, O king, urged Sikhundin, saying, Proceed, proceed, towards Bhishma, and slay him. Then elder brother of Pandhu, the ruler of Pragyotishas, abandoning that son of Pandhu, quickly proceeded, O king, against the car of Drupada. Then Arjuna, O monarch, speedily proceeded towards Bhishma, placing Sikhundin ahead. And then there took place a fierce battle, for all the brave combatants of thy army rushed with great vigor against Arjuna, uttering loud shouts. And all this seemed extremely wonderful. Like the wind dispersing in the summer masses of clouds in the welkin, Arjuna dispersed, O king, all those diverse divisions of thy sons. Sikhundin, however, without any anxiety, coming up at the grandsire of the Bharatas, quickly pierced him with great many arrows. As regards Bhishma, his car was then his fire chamber. His bow was the flame of that fire. And swords and darts and maces constituted the fuel of that fire. And the showers of arrows he shot were the blazing sparks of that fire with which he was then consuming Kshatriyas in that battle. As a raging conflagration, with constant supply of fuel, wandered amid masses of dry grass when aided by the wind, so did Bhishma blaze up with his flames, scattering his celestial weapons. And the Kuru heroes slew the Somakas that followed Partha in that battle. Indeed, that mighty warrior checked also the other forces of Arjuna by means of his straight and whetted shafts furnished with wings of gold. filling in that dreadful battle all the points of the compass, cardinal and subsidiary with his leonine shouts. Bhishma felt many warriors oaking from their cars and many steeds along with their riders. And he caused large bodies of cars to look like forests of palmyras shorn of their leafy heads. That foremost of all wielders of weapons, in that battle deprived cars and steeds and elephants of their riders. Hearing the twang of his bow and the slap of his palms, both resembling the roll of the thunder, the troops oaking, trembled all over the field. The shafts, O chief of men, of thy sire were never bootless as they fell. Indeed, shot from Bhishma's bow they never fell only touching the bodies of the foe, but pierced them through in every case. We saw crowds of cars oaking, deprived of riders, but unto which were yoked fleet steeds, dragged on all sides with the speed of the wind. Full 14,000 great car warriors of noble parentage, prepared to lay down their lives, unretreating and brave and possessed of standards decked with gold, belonging to the Chedis, the Kasis, and the Karushas, approaching Bhishma, that hero who resembled the destroyer himself with wide open mouth, were dispatched to the other world with their steeds, cars and elephants. There was not oaking a single great car warrior among the Somakas who, having approached Bhishma in that battle, returned with life from that engagement. Beholding Bhishma's prowess, people regarded all those warriors who approached him as already dispatched to the abode of the king of the dead. Indeed, no car warrior ventured to approach Bhishma in battle, except the heroic Arjuna having white steeds yoked unto his car and owning Krishna for his charioteer, and Sikhandin, the prince of Panchala, of immeasurable energy. Thus ends the 117th section in the Bhishma Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 118, Bhishma Parva continued. Sanjaya said, Sikhandin, O bull among men, approaching Bhishma in battle, struck him in the center of the chest with 10 broad-headed arrows. The son of Ganga, however, O Bharata, only looked at Sikhandin with wrath and as if consuming the Panchala prince with that look. Remembering his femininity, O king, Bhishma, in the very sight of all struck him not. Sikhandin, however, understood it not. Then Arjuna, O monarch, addressed Sikhandin saying, Rush quickly and slay the grandsire. What needst thou say, O hero? Slay the mighty car warrior Bhishma. I do not see any other warrior in Yudhishthira's army who is competent to fight with Bhishma in battle save thee, O tiger among men. I say this truly. Thus addressed by Partha, Sikhandin, O bull of Bharata's race, quickly covered the grandsire with diverse kinds of weapons. Disregarding those shafts, thy sire Devavrata began, with his shafts to check the angry Arjuna only in that battle. And that mighty car warrior, O sire, began also to dispatch, with his shafts of keen points, the whole army of the Pandavas to the other world. The Pandavas also, O king, after the same manner supported by their vast host, began to overwhelm Bhishma like the clouds covering the maker of day. O bull of Bharata's race, surrounded on all sides, that Bharata hero consumed many brave warriors in that battle like a raging conflagration in the forest consuming numberless trees. The prowess that we then beheld there of thy son Dusasana was wonderful, inasmuch as he battled with Partha and protected the grandsire at the same time. With that feat of thy son Dusasana, that illustrious bowman, all the people there were highly gratified. Alone he battled with all the Pandavas, having Arjuna amongst them, and he fought with such vigor that the Pandavas were unable to resist him. Many car warriors were in that battle deprived of their cars by Dusasana. And many mighty bowmen on horseback and many mighty warriors, elephants, pierced with Dusasana's keen shafts, fell down on the earth. And many elephants, afflicted with his shafts, ran away in all directions. As a fire fiercely blazed forth with bright flames when fed with fuel, so did thy son blaze forth, consuming the Pandava host. And no warrior of Bharata, of the Pandava host ventured to vanquish, or even proceed against that warrior of gigantic proportions, save Indra's son Arjuna, owning white steeds and having Krishna for his charioteer. Then Arjuna, also called Vijaya, vanquishing Dusasana in battle, O king, in the very sight of the troops, then proceeded against Bhishma. Though vanquished, thy son, however, relying upon the might of Bhishma's arms, repeatedly comforted his own side and battled with the Pandavas with great fierceness. Arjuna, O king, fighting with his foes in that battle, looked exceedingly resplendent. Then Sikhandin, in that battle, O king, pierced the grandsire with many arrows whose touch resembled that of the bolts of heaven and which were as fatal as the poison of the snake. These arrows, however, O monarch, caused thy sire little pain, for the son of Ganga received them laughingly. Indeed, as a person afflicted with heat cheerfully receives torrents of rain, even so did the son of Ganga receive those arrows of Sikhandin. And the Kshatriyas there, O king, beheld Bhishma in that great battle as a being of fierce visage who was incessantly consuming the troops of the high-souled Pandavas. Then thy son Duryodhana, addressing all his warriors, said unto them, Rush ye against Falguni from all sides. Bhishma, acquainted with the duties of a commander, will protect you. Thus addressed, the Kaurava troops, casting off all fear, fought with the Pandavas. And once more Duryodhana said unto them, with his tall standard bearing the device of the golden Palmyra, Bhishma stayeth, protecting the honor and the armor of all the Dhartashtra warriors. The very gods, striving vigorously, cannot vanquish the illustrious and mighty Bhishma. What need be said therefore of the Pathas who are mortals? Therefore, ye warriors, fly not away from the field, getting Falguni for a foe. I myself, striving vigorously, will today fight with the Pandavas, uniting with all of you, ye lords of earth, exerting yourselves actively. Hearing these words, O monarch of thy son, with bow in hand, many mighty combatants, excited with rage, belonging to the Vaidhyas, the Kalingas, and the diverse tribes of the Desakas, fell upon Falguni. And many combatants also, belonging to the Nishadas, the Soviras, the Valikas, the Daradas, the Westerners, the Northerners, the Malavas, the Abhayatas, the Surasenas, the Sivis, the Vasetis, the Salvas, the Sakas, the Trigatas, the Ambashtas, and the Kekayas, similarly fell upon Partha like flights of insects upon a fire. The mighty Dhananjaya, otherwise called Vibhatsu, then, O monarch, calling to mind diverse celestial weapons and aiming them at those great warriors at the heads of their respective divisions, quickly consumed them all by means of those weapons of great force, like fire consuming a flight of insects. And while that firm bowman was by means of his celestial weapons creating thousands upon thousands of arrows, his Gandiva looked highly resplendent in the welkin. Then those Kshatriyas, O monarch, afflicted with those arrows, with their tall standards torn and overthrown, could not even together approach the ape-bannered Partha. Warriors fell down with their standards, and horsemen with their horses, and elephant riders with their elephants, attacked by Kiritin with his shafts. And the earth was soon covered on all sides with the retreating troops of those kings, routed in consequence of the shafts shot from Arjuna's arms. Partha then, O monarch, having routed the Kaurava army, sped many arrows at Dusasana. Those arrows, with iron heads piercing thy son Dusasana through, all entered the earth like snakes through anthills. Arjuna then slew Dusasana's steeds and then felled his charioteer. And the Lord Arjuna, with 20 shafts, deprived Viving-Seti of his car and struck him with 5 straight shafts. And piercing Kripa and Vikarna and Salya with many arrows made wholly of iron, Kunti's son owning white steeds deprived all of them of their cars. thus deprived of their cars and vanquished in battle by Savyasjin, Kripa and Salya, O sire, and Dusasana and Vikarna and Viving Seti all fled away. Having vanquished those mighty car warriors, O chief of the Bharatas, in the forenoon, Partha blazed up in that battle like a smokeless conflagration. Scattering his shafts all around like the sun shading rays of light, Partha felled many other kings, O monarch. Making those mighty car warriors turn their backs upon the field by means of his arrowy showers, Arjuna caused a large river of bloody current to flow in that battle between the host of the Kurus and the Pandavas, O Bharata. Large numbers of elephants and steeds and car warriors were slain by car warriors. And many were the car warriors slain by elephants, and many also were the steeds slain by foot soldiers. And the bodies of many elephant riders and horsemen and car warriors, cut off in the middle as also their heads, fell down on every part of the field. And the field of battle, O king, was strewn with slain princes, mighty car warriors, falling or fallen, decked with earrings and bracelets. And it was also strewn with the bodies of many warriors cut off by car wheels, or trodden down by elephants. And foot soldiers ran away, and horsemen also with their horses. And many elephants and car warriors fell down on all sides. And many cars with wheels and yokes and standards broken, lay scattered all about on the field. And the field of battle, dyed with the gore of large numbers of elephants, steeds and car warriors, looked beautiful like a red cloud in the autumnal sky. Dogs and crows and vultures, and wolves and jackals, and many other frightful beasts and birds set up loud howls at the sight of the food that lay before them. Divers kinds of winds blew along all directions. And Rakshasas and evil spirits were seen there uttering loud roars. And strings, embroidered with gold and costly banners, were seen to wave, moved by the wind. And thousands of umbrellas and great cars with standards attached to them, were seen lying scattered about on the field. Then Bhishma, O king, invoking a celestial weapon, rushed at the son of Kunti in the very sight of all the bowmen. Thereupon Sikhunding, clad in mail, rushed at Bhishma, who was dashing towards Arjuna. At this Bhishma withdrew that weapon resembling fire in effulgence and energy. Meanwhile Kunti's son owning white steeds slaughtered thy troops, confounding the grandsire. Thus ends the 118th section in the Bhishmavada Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 119, Bhishmavada Parva continued. Sanjaya said, when the combatants of both armies, strong in number, were thus disposed in battle array, all those unretreating heroes, O Bharata, set their heart upon the region of Brahma. In course of the general engagement that followed, the same class of combatants did not fight with the same class of combatants. Car warriors fought not with car warriors, or foot soldiers with foot soldiers, or horsemen with horsemen, or elephant warriors with elephant warriors. On the other hand, O monarch, the combatants fought with one another like madmen. Great and dreadful was the calamity that overtook both the armies. In that fierce slaughter, when elephants and men spread themselves on the field, all distinctions between them ceased, for they fought indiscriminately. Then Salya and Kripa, and Chitrasena, O Bharata, and Dusasana and Vikarna, those heroes mounted on their bright cars, caused the Pandava host to tremble. Slaughtered in battle by those high-souled warriors, the Pandava army began to reel in divers ways, O king, like a boat on the waters tossed by the wind. As the wintry cold cut skin to the quick, so did Bhishma cut the sons of Pandu to the quick. As regards thy army also, many elephants looking like newly risen clouds were felled by the illustrious Partha. And many foremost of warriors too were seen to be crushed by that hero. And struck with arrows and long shafts in thousands, many huge elephants fell down, uttering frightful shrieks of pain. And the field of battle looked beautiful, strewn with the bodies still decked with ornaments of high-souled warriors deprived of life, and with heads still decked with earrings. And in that battle, O king, which was destructive of great heroes. When Bhishma and Dhananjaya the son of Pandu put forth their prowess, thy sons, O monarch, beholding the grandsire exert himself vigorously, approached him with all their troops placed ahead. Desirous of laying down their lives in battle and making heaven itself their goal, they approached the Pandavas in that battle which was fraught with great carnage. The brave Pandavas also, O king, bearing in mind the many injuries of divers kinds inflicted upon them before by thee, and thy son, O monarch, and casting off all fear and eager to win the highest heavens, cheerfully fought with thy son and the other warriors of thy army. Then the generalissimo of the Pandava army viz., the mighty warrior Drishtadyumna, addressing his soldiers said, Ye Somakas, accompanied by the Srinjayas, rush ye at Ganga's son. Hearing those words of their commander, the Somakas and the Srinjayas, though afflicted with showers of arrows, rushed at the son of Ganga. Thus attacked, O king, thy sire Bhishma, influenced by wrath, began to fight with the Srinjayas. In days of old, O sire, the intelligent Rama had imparted to Bhishma of glorious achievements that instruction in weapon which was so destructive of hostile ranks. Relying on that instruction and causing a great havoc among the troops of the foe, that slayer of hostile heroes viz., the old Guru grandsire Bhishma, day after day slew 10,000 warriors of the Ratha. On the 10th day, however, O bull of Bharata's race, Bhishma single-handedly slew 10,000 elephants. And then he slew 7 great warriors among the Matsyas and the Panchalas. In addition to all this, in that dreadful battle, 5,000 foot soldiers and 1,000 tuskers, and 10,000 steeds were also slain by thy sire, O king, through skill acquired by education. Then, having thinned the ranks of all the kings, he slew Satanika, the dear brother of Virata. And the valiant Bhishma, having slain Satanika in battle, felled, O king, full 1,000 Kshatriyas with his broad-headed shafts. Besides these, all the Kshatriyas of the Pandava army who followed Dhananjaya, as soon as they approached Bhishma, had to go to Yama's abode. Covering the Pandava host from every side with showers of arrows, Bhishma stayed in battle at the head of the Kaurava army. Achieving the most glorious feats on the 10th day, as he stayed between the two armies, bow in hand, none of the kings, O monarch, could even look at him, for he then resembled the hot midday sun in the summer sky. As Sakra scorched the Daitya host in battle, even so, O Bharata, did Bhishma scorch the Pandava host. Beholding him thus putting forth his prowess, the slayer of Madhuvis, the son of Devaki, cheerfully addressing Dhananjaya said, There, Bhishma, the son of Santanu, stayeth between the two armies. Slaying him by putting forth thy might, thou mayst win victory. There, at that spot, whence he breaketh our ranks, check him, putting forth thy strength. O Lord, none else, save thee, ventureth to bear the arrows of Bhishma. Thus urged, the ape-bannered Arjuna at that moment made Bhishma with his car, steeds, and standard, invisible by means of his arrows. That bull among the foremost of Kurus, however, by means of his own arrowy showers pierced those showers of shafts shot by the son of Pandu. Then the king of the Panchalas, the valiant Drishtaketu, Bhimasena the son of Pandu, Drishtadyumna of Prishata's race, the twins Nakula and Sahadeva, Chekitana, and the 5 Kekaya brothers, and the mighty armed Satyaki and Subhadra's son, and Ghatotkacha, and the 5 sons of Draupadi, and Sikhundin, and the valiant Kuntiboja, and Susaman, and Virata, these and many other powerful warriors of the Pandava army, afflicted by the shafts of Bhishma, seemed to sink in an ocean of grief. Falguni, however, rescued them all. Then Sikhundin, taking up a mighty weapon and protected by Kiritin, rushed impetuously towards Bhishma alone. The unvanquished Vibhatsu then, knowing what should be done afterward, slew all those that followed Bhishma and then himself rushed at him. And Satyaki and Chekitana, and Drishtadyumna of Prishata's race, and Virata, and Drupada, and the twin sons of Madri by Pandu, all protected by that firm bowman Vis, Arjuna rushed against Bhishma alone in that battle. And Abhimanyu, and the 5 sons of Draupadi also, with mighty weapons upraised rushed against Bhishma in battle. All those firm bowmen, unretreating from battle pierced Bhishma in divers parts of his body with well-aimed shafts. Disregarding all those shafts, large in number shot by those foremost of princes belonging to the Pandava host, Bhishma of undepressed soul penetrated into the Pandava ranks. And the grandsire baffled all those arrows, as if sporting the while. Frequently looking at Sikhundin the prince of the Panchalas with a laugh, he aimed not a single arrow at him, recollecting his femininity. On the other hand he slew 7 great warriors belonging to Drupada's division. Then confused cries of woe soon arose amongst the Matsyas, the Panchalas, and the Chedis who were together rushing at that single hero. With large numbers of foot soldiers and steeds and cars, and with showers of arrows O scorcher of foes, they overwhelmed that single warrior Vis, Bhishma the son of Bhagirathi, that scorcher of foes, like the clouds overwhelming the maker of day. Then that battle between him and them, which resembled the battle between the gods and the asuras in days of old, the diadem-decked Arjuna, placing Sikhundin before him pierced Bhishma repeatedly. Thus ends the 190th section in the Bhishmavada Parva of the Bhishma Parva. Section 120, Bhishmavada Parva continued. Sanjaya said, thus all the Pandavas, placing Sikhundin before them pierced Bhishma in that battle repeatedly surrounding him on all sides. And all the Srinjayas, uniting together struck him with dreadful suttedness and spiked maces, and battle axes and mallets, and short thick clubs, and bearded darts and other missiles, and arrows furnished with golden wings, and darts and lances and campanas, and with long shafts and arrows furnished with heads shaped like the calf tooth, and rockets. Thus afflicted by many, his coat of mail was pierced everywhere. But though pierced in every vital part, Bhishma felt no pain. On the other hand, he then seemed to his enemies to resemble in appearance the all-destructive fire that rises at the end of Yuga. His bow and arrows constituted the blazing flames of that fire. The flight of his weapons constituted its friendly breeze. The rattle of his car wheels constituted its heat and mighty weapons constituted its splendor. His beautiful bow formed its fierce tongue and the bodies of heroic warriors, its profuse fuel. And Bhishma was seen to roll through the midst of crowds of cars belonging to those kings, or to come out of the press at times, or course once more through their midst. Then, disregarding the king of the Panchalas and Drishtaketu, he penetrated, O monarch, into the midst of the Pandava army. He then pierced the 6 Pandava warriors, Vis, Satyaki and Bhima, and Dhananjaya the son of Pandu, and Drupada and Virata, and Drishtadhyumna of Prishata's race, with many excellent arrows of great sharpness and dreadful vis and exceeding impetuosity, and capable of piercing through every kind of armor. Those mighty warriors, however, checking those keen shafts, afflicted Bhishma with great force, each of them striking him with 10 shafts. Those mighty shafts, whetted on stone and furnished with golden wings which the great warrior Sikhundin shot, quickly penetrated into Bhishma's body. Then the diadem-decked Arjuna, excited with wrath and placing Sikhundin ahead, rushed at Bhishma and cut off the latter's bow. Thereupon mighty warriors, 7 in number, Vis, Drona and Kritavarman, and Jayadratha the ruler of the Sindhus, and Burisravas and Sala, and Salya and Bhagadatta could not brook that act of Arjuna. Inflamed with rage, they rushed at him. Indeed, those mighty warriors, invoking into existence celestial weapons, fell with great wrath upon that son of Pandu, and covered him with their arrows. And as they rushed towards Falguni's car, the noise made by them was heard to resemble that made by the ocean itself when it swelleth in rage at the end of the Yuga. Kill, bring up our forces, take, pierce, cut off. This was the furious uproar heard about Falguni's car. Hearing that furious uproar, the mighty car warriors of the Pandava army rushed forward, O bull of Bharata's race, for protecting Arjuna. They were Satyaki and Bhimasena, and Drishtadhyumna of Prishata's race, and both Virata and Drupada, and the Rakshasa Ghatotkacha, and the wrathful Abhimanyu. These 7, inflamed with rage and armed with excellent bows, rushed with great speed. And the battle that took place between these and the Kaurava warriors was fierce, making the hair to stand on end and resembling, O chief of the Bharatas, the battle of the gods with the Danavas. Sikhandin, however, that foremost of car warriors, protected in the battle by the diadem-decked Arjuna, pierced Bhishma in that encounter with 10 shafts after the latter's bow had been cut off. And he struck Bhishma's charioteer with other shafts, and cut off the latter's standard with 1 shaft. Then the son of Ganga took up another bow that was tougher. That even was cut off by Falguni with 3 sharp shafts. Indeed, that chastiser of foes, viz., Arjuna, who was capable of drawing the bow with even his left hand, excited with rage, one after another cut off all the bows that Bhishma took up. Then Bhishma, whose bows were thus cut off, excited with rage and licking the corners of his mouth, took up a dart that was capable of riving a hill. In rage he hurled it at Falguni's car. Beholding its course towards him like the blazing bolt of heaven, the delight of the Pandavas fixed 5 sharp broad-headed arrows on his bowstring. And with those 5 arrows, O chief of the Bharatas, the angry Arjuna cut off into 5 fragments that dart hurled from Bhishma's arms. Thus cut off by the angry Arjuna, that dart then fell down like a flash of lightning separated from a mass of clouds. Beholding his dart cut off, Bhishma became filled with rage. That hero, that subjugator of hostile cities, then began to reflect. And he said unto himself, with only a single bow I could slay all the Pandavas, if the mighty Vishnu himself had not been their protector. For 2 reasons, however, I will not fight with the Pandavas, viz., their unslayableness and the femininity of Sikhandin. Formerly, when my sire wedded Kali, he pleased with me, gave me 2 boons, viz., that I should be incapable of being slain in battle and that my death should depend on my own choice. I should, however, now wish my own death, this being the proper hour. Ascertaining this to be the resolve of Bhishma of immeasurable energy, the Rishis and the Vasus stationed in the firmament said, That which hath been resolved by thee is approved by us also, O son. Act according to thy resolution, O king. Withdraw thy heart from battle. On the conclusion of those words, fragrant and auspicious breeze charged with particles of water, began to blow along a natural direction. And celestial cymbals of loud sounds began to beat. And a flowery shower fell upon Bhishma, O sire. The words spoken by the Rishis and the Vasus, however, O king, were not heard by anyone save Bhishma himself. I also heard them, through the power conferred on me by the Muni. Great was the grief, O monarch, that filled the hearts of the celestials at the thought of Bhishma, that favorite of all the worlds, falling down from his car. Having listened to these words of the celestials, Santanu's son Bhishma of great ascetic merit rushed out at Vibhatsu, even though he was then being pierced with sharp arrows capable of penetrating through every armor. Then Sikhandin, O king, excited with rage, struck the grandsire of the Bharatas in the chest with 9 sharp arrows. The Kuru grandsire Bhishma, however, though struck by him in battle thus, trembled not, O monarch, but remained unmoved like a mountain during an earthquake. Then Vibhatsu, drawing his bow Gandiva with a laugh, pierced the son of Ganga with 25 arrows. And once more Dhananjaya, with great speed and excited with wrath, struck him in every vital part with hundreds of arrows. Thus pierced by others also with thousands of arrows, the mighty warrior Bhishma pierced those others in return with great speed. And as regards the arrows shot by those warriors, Bhishma, possessed of prowess in battle that was incapable of being baffled, equally checked them all with his own straight arrows. Those arrows, however, endued with wings of gold and whetted on stone, which the mighty warrior Sikhundin shot in that battle, scarcely caused Bhishma any pain. Then the diadem-decked Arjuna, excited with rage and placing Sikhundin to the fore, approached Bhishma nearer and once more cut off his bow. And then piercing Bhishma with 10 arrows, he cut off the latter's standard with one. And striking Bhishma's chariot with 10 arrows, Arjuna caused him to tremble. The son of Ganga then took up another bow that was stronger. Within, however, the twinkling of an eye, as soon in fact as it was taken up, Arjuna cut that bow also into 3 fragments with 3 broad-headed shafts. And thus the son of Pandu cut off in that battle even all the bows of Bhishma. After that, Bhishma the son of Santanu, no longer desired to battle with Arjuna. The latter, however, then pierced him with 25 arrows. That great bowman, thus pierced greatly, then addressed Dusasana, and said, "Behold, Partha, that great warrior of the Pandavas, excited with wrath in battle, pierced me alone with many thousands of arrows. He is incapable of being vanquished in battle by the wielder of the thunderbolt himself. As regards myself also, O hero, the very gods, Danavas and Rakshasas united together, are incapable of vanquishing me. What I shall say then of mighty warriors among men?" While Bhishma was thus speaking to Dusasana, Falguni with sharp shafts, and placing Sikhundin to the fore, pierced Bhishma in that battle. Then Bhishma, deeply and excessively pierced by the wielder of Gandiva with keen-pointed shafts, once more addressed Dusasana with a smile and said, "These arrows coursing towards me in one continuous line, whose touch resembleth that of heaven's bolt, have been shot by Arjuna. These are not Sikhundins. Cutting me to the quick, piercing through even my hard coat of mail and striking me with the force of Mushalas, these arrows are not Sikhundins. Of touch as hard as that of the Brahmana's rod of chastisement and of impetus unbearable as that of the thunderbolt, these arrows are afflicting my vital forces. These are not Sikhundins. Of the touch of maces and spiked bludgeons, those arrows are destroying my vital forces like messengers of death commissioned by the grim king himself. These are not Sikhundins. Like angry snakes of virulent poison, projecting their tongues out, these are penetrating into my vitals. These are not Sikhundins. These that cut me to the quick like the cold of winter cutting kin to the quick. Save the heroic wielder of Gandiva, viz., the ape-bannered Jishnu, even all other kings united together cannot cause me pain." Saying these words, Bhishma, the valiant son of Santanu, as if for the object of consuming the Pandavas, hurled a dart at Partha. Partha, however, caused that dart to drop down, cutting it into 3 fragments with 3 shafts in the very sight, O Bharata, of all the Kuru heroes of thy army. Desirous of obtaining either death or victory, the son of Ganga then took up a sword and a shield decked with gold. Before, however, he could come down from his car, Arjuna cut off by means of his arrows that shield into 100 fragments. And that feat of his seemed exceedingly wonderful. Then the king Yudhishthira urged his own troops, saying, "Rush ye at Ganga's son. Do not entertain the slightest fear." Then armed with bearded darts and lances, and arrows from all sides, with axes and excellent scimitars, and long shafts of great sharpness, with calf-toothed arrows, and broad-headed shafts, they all rushed at that single warrior. Then arose from among the Pandava host a loud shout. Then thy sons also, O king, desirous of Bhishma's victory, surrounded him and uttered leonine shouts. Fierce was the battle fought there between thy troops and those of the enemy on that the 10th day, O king, when Bhishma and Arjuna met together. like unto the vortex that occurs at the spot where the Ganga meets the ocean. For a short while a vortex occurred there where the troops of both armies met and struck one another down. And the earth, wet with gore, assumed a fierce form. And the even and the uneven spots on her surface could no longer be distinguished. Although Bhishma was pierced in all his vital limbs, yet on that the 10th day he stayed calmly in battle, having slain 10,000 warriors. Then that great bowman Partha, stationed at the head of his troops, broke the center of the Kuru army. Ourselves then, afraid of Kunti's son Dhananjaya having white steeds attached to his car, and afflicted by him with polished weapons, fled away from the battle. The Soviras, the Kitavas, the Easterners, the Westerners, the Northerners, the Malavas, the Abhishahas, the Surasenas, the Sivis, the Vasetis, the Salvas, the Sayas, the Trigatas, the Amvashtas, and the Kaikeyas, these and many other illustrious warriors, afflicted with arrows and pained by their wounds, abandoned Bhishma in that battle while he was fighting with the diadem-decked Arjuna. Then a great many warriors, surrounding that single warrior on all sides, defeated the Kurus that protected him and covered him with a shower of arrows. Throw down, seize, fight, cut into pieces, this was the furious uproar king heard in the vicinity of Bhishma's car. Having slain in that battle, O monarch, his foes by hundreds and thousands, there was not in Bhishma's body space of even 2 fingers' breadths that was not pierced with arrows. Thus was thy sire mangled with arrows of keen points by Falguni in that battle. And then he fell down from his car with his head to the east, a little before sunset, in the very sight of thy sons. And while Bhishma fell, loud cries of, Alas and O Bharata, were heard in the welkin uttered by the celestials and the kings of the earth. And beholding the high-souled grandsire falling down from his car, the hearts of all of us fell with him. That foremost of all bowmen, that mighty armed hero fell down like an uprooted standard of Indra, making the earth tremble the while. Pierced all over with arrows, his body touched not the ground. At that moment, O bull of Bharata's race, a divine nature took possession of that great bowman lying on a bed of arrows. The clouds poured a cool shower over him and the earth trembled. While falling he had marked that the sun was then in the southern solstice. That hero therefore permitted not his senses to depart, thinking of that inauspicious season of death. And all around in the welkin he heard celestial voices saying, Why oh why, should Ganges' son, that foremost of all warriors of weapons, yield up his life during the southern declination? Hearing these words, the son of Ganga answered, I am alive. Although fallen upon the earth, the Kuru grandsire Bhishma, expectant of the northern declination, suffered not his life to depart. Ascertaining that to be his resolve, Ganga the daughter of Himavat sent unto him the great rishis in swan-like forms. Then those rishis in the forms of swans inhabiting the Manasa lake quickly rose up and came together for obtaining a sight of the Kuru grandsire Bhishma, to that spot where that foremost of men was lying on his bed of arrows. Then those rishis in swan-like forms, coming to Bhishma, beheld that perpetuator of Kuru's race lying on his bed of arrows. Beholding that high-souled son of Ganga, that chief of the Bharatas, they walked round him and the sun, being then in the southern solstice, they said, addressing one another these words, being a high-souled person, why should Bhishma pass out of the world during the southern declination? Having said these words, those swans went away, proceeding towards the southern direction. Endued with great intelligence, Bhishma o Bharata, beholding them reflected for a moment. And the son of Santanu then said unto them, I will never pass out of the world as long as the sun is in the southern solstice. Even this is my resolve. I will proceed to my own ancient abode when the sun reacheth the northern solstice. Ye swans, I tell you this truly. Expectant of the northern declination, I will hold my life. Since I have the fullest control over the yielding up of my life, I will therefore hold life, expectant of death during the northern declination. The boon that was granted to me by my illustrious sire, to the effect that my death would depend on my own wish, let that boon become true. I will hold my life, since I have control in the matter of laying it down. Having said these words to those swans, he continued to lie down on his bed of arrows. When that crest of the Kuru race, viz., Bhishma of great energy, fell down, the Pandavas and the Srinjayas uttered leonine shouts. When the grandsire of the Bharatas, who was endued with great might, was overthrown, thy son, O bull of Bharata's race, knew not what to do. And all the Kurus were entirely deprived of their senses. And the Kurus, headed by Kripa and Duryodhana, sighed and wept. And from grief they remained for a long while deprived of their senses. And they remained perfectly still, O monarch, without setting their hearts on battle. As if seized by ties, they stood motionless without proceeding against the Pandavas. When Santanu's son Bhishma of mighty energy, who was regarded as unslayable, was slain, all of us thought that the destruction of the Kuru king was at hand. Vanquished by Savyasjin, with our foremost heroes slain and ourselves mangled with sharp arrows, we knew not what to do. And the heroic Pandavas, possessed of massive arms that looked like spiked maces, having obtained the victory and won a highly blessed state in the other world, all blew their great conches. And the Somakas and the Panchalas all rejoiced, O king. Then when thousands of trumpets were blown, the mighty Bhimasena slapped his armpits and uttered loud shouts. When the all-powerful son of Ganga was slain, the heroic warriors of both armies, laying down their weapons, began to reflect thoughtfully. And some uttered loud shrieks, and some fled away, and some were deprived of their senses. And some censured the practices of the Kshatriya order, and some applauded Bhishma. And the Rishis and the P3s all applauded Bhishma of high voice. And the deceased ancestors of the Bharatas also praised Bhishma. Meanwhile the valiant and intelligent Bhishma, the son of Santanu, having recourse to that yoga, which is taught in the great Upanishads, and engaged in mental prayers, remained quiet, expectant of his hour. Thus ends the 120th section in the Bhishmavada Parva of the Bhishma Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.